Fear of being seen is like being in an invisible cage. It keeps you small, but no one else can see the bars. So you stay trapped, convincing yourself it's safer in the shadows. But is it really? Let's talk about why hiding isn't protection, it's suffocation. Today, we're digging into the fear of being seen, where it comes from, why it feels so heavy, and most importantly, how we free ourselves from it. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're gonna feel ready to take up the space that's been yours all along. Say this really quick. This isn't about drawing lines in the sand or creating walls where bridges should be built. This is about truth telling. For women of color, the fear of being seen doesn't come from within all the time. It's shaped by centuries of being misunderstood, silenced, scrutinized. And yet, as much of these truths weigh on us, I actually don't believe in using them as a crutch or an excuse. I believe in using them as a lens, a perspective to help us better understand the path we've walked so that we can step more boldly into the one ahead. And I'm making this video because it's what I needed not too long ago. There was a time where I swallowed myself with my own fear of being seen, afraid that every misstep, every failure, every part of me that didn't fit someone else's mold would be magnified, scrutinized, punished even. And in sharing this message with you, I'm healing these parts of myself. So this isn't just a conversation, this is an offering, a safe space to name what hurts, to challenge what holds us back, and to create something new together. Healing isn't personal, it's collective. And my hope is that this conversation doesn't weigh you down, but babe, it lifts you up. That it doesn't encourage blame, but instead inspires understanding. This is about reclaiming what's ours, what's yours. Not to prove anything to anyone else, but to remind ourselves that we've always been enough. So take a deep breath and let's step into this together. Love you. There's this really unique ache in wanting to be seen, but fearing what it might cost. It's not just about stepping into the light. It's all about actually the stories that we carry about what that light might expose. And for so many women of color, myself included, this fear used to run deep. And it's tied to a history of being silenced, misunderstood, and judged before we even get a chance to show up how we want to show up, how we actually truly authentically are, you know? And it's not just our experiences that taint us in those ways. It's what we've witnessed, you know, by our mothers, our sisters, our cousins, in the news all around us, you know, what our grandmothers have warned us about. It's generational, it's intergenerational. It's a fear passed down, and not because those before us are weak, not because we are weak, but because survival often demanded it. We often needed to be warned and conditioned to protect ourselves in different ways. And so when we talk about the fear of being seen, it's not just about like this insecurity, this collective insecurity that a lot of us have developed. It's more about the risk that comes with the visibility, and about visibility being the new concept that we're teaching ourselves. It's about knowing that the world has often been more comfortable with our invisibility, right? Think about it. Like, how many times have you personally held yourself back, not because you didn't have something to say, but because you were afraid of what might come next? What are the repercussions of what you actually wanted to say, right? In the tone, in the diction, in the whatever, however it was going to come out. You know, a lot of us are being misunderstood, being labeled, being reduced to someone else's idea of you, right? So this fear isn't imaginary. We're not making it up. It's been earned in the most painful ways, unfortunately. And here is where I want to challenge you and myself, you know, like that fear is valid. It is, but it's so outdated. It doesn't belong in this generation, in this moment, or this chapter of your story. We've inherited it, but we don't have to keep carrying it. Because what the world doesn't tell us is that being seen isn't just about the risk. It is, in fact, about the liberation. So every time you allow yourself to step into your fullness, you rewrite the script, not just for yourself, but for everyone watching, for your family, for your little sisters, for your little cousins, for your children, for your grandmother. And that's the kind of ripple I want us to create together. Before we get into the tools to help move through this, I want to talk a little bit about why the fear feels so big, especially even in spaces where it's safe to show up. And that's where the concept of the spotlight effect comes in. The spotlight effect is kind of like this. You know that feeling when you're sure everyone is staring at you, picking your part, your every move, but that's actually our brain tricking us into thinking that we're the center of attention. When in reality, most people are too busy worrying about themselves to even notice. And not that they're like minding their own business, but that people just have bigger fish to fry. You know what I mean? And for some of us, it doesn't actually feel imagined though, right? So this history, that we've been taught, the stereotypes and these lived experiences have shown us that we are being watched. We are being judged for our tone. We are being looked at for our hair. Even the way that we take up space is being scrutinized. The fear feels real because at some point it was, I want to also shift your attention to talking about the smaller cuts that often hurt the most. We've all heard the word microaggressions before. And by definition, microaggressions are subtle, unintentional comments or actions that communicate bias, stereotypes, or prejudice towards marginalized groups. They're not always loud or obvious. In fact, that's kind of why they're called micro. They're often cloaked in what feels like harmlessness. But obviously, we all know that their impact is anything but small. They carry this undercurrent of you're an exception to the rule, or you only belong here because you're meeting our standards and requirements, And over time, hearing things like that will chip away at your confidence, your sense of belonging, your self-worth, and even your willingness to show up at all, And the thing about microaggressions is that they don't just land on you once and disappear. They don't just sting you one time. They linger. They're like open wounds. They make you second guess your worth, your talent, sometimes even the places and the spaces that you inhabit, like your job, like your home, like your favorite restaurant or coffee shop, And because they're so subtle, calling them out often can feel like stepping into a trap. It's like a setup, you know what I mean? And you've probably heard this response before. I didn't mean it that way. Or even worse, you're being too sensitive. Sometimes it feels like the safest option is just to shrink down, just to be small, just to be quiet, But here's what we don't talk about enough. Microaggressions are not your responsibility to fix or internalize, more importantly, to internalize. They're not a reflection of you. They're a reflection of the biases that the world carries. And the moment that you realize that this is you taking back a little piece of your power, Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there's a perfect way to handle it. Everything is nuanced. It's all subjective. You know what I mean? And we've all had our share of experiences. And some days it might feel right to confront them. Other days, your peace might be leading the revolution here. And it might just be like, I don't even have the space to deal with that right now. Both are valid. What matters is how you respond. How you respond should be for you, not for them. Like, it's not always about a teaching moment. Sometimes it's about self-preservation. But if it feels like a boundary needs to be set it. If it feels like preserving your energy is more important, do it. There's no one-size-fits-all answer because your journey, your healing, and your voice is uniquely yours, right? Microaggressions, they thrive in silence, in the spaces where we question ourselves, after they happened, instead of naming the world around us, and by labeling them or just putting understanding to them, we remind ourselves and others that we are not invisible, and neither are those comments, neither are those things. It's kind of like subtle teaching, because they're designed to make you feel small. But you're anything but small. That's the nuance, For so many of us, authenticity can feel like a double-edged sword. On one hand, we crave the freedom to show up as our full, unfiltered selves. On the other, we've been conditioned to believe that being our truest selves will cost us opportunities, cost us acceptance, even safety in some situations. And so we learn to code switch, to shrink, to wear masks, that help us fit into spaces that were actually never really designed for us in the first place. These rules are exhausting, and worse, they're rooted in the belief that we're only valuable when we're digestible, when we meet the requirements, when we're fitting inside the box, Listen, playing by these rules is not going to save you. It's never saved anyone. It won't protect you from the judgment or the criticism, okay, because those things are not Like those things don't define you, right? The microaggressions, they are biases of the world, as I said. And every time that you dull your shine to make someone else comfortable, you're the one who suffers. You're the one who loses. It's a tally against you. You know, when you shrink yourself to fit into spaces, you're also shrinking your dreams. You're shrinking your voice, your impact, your passions, who you really are, you know? And I know it sometimes can feel safer to blend in, but safety at the cost of your authenticity isn't safety. That's self-sabotage. That's self-abandonment, you know? And the longer that you live in that space, the harder it becomes to find your way back to your true self. You know, you're communicating to yourself that you yourself are not a safe space. You know, I've been there. I mean, hell, you know, I feel the weight of making myself small to survive. I'm traveling. I'm a nomad. I'm a backpacker. There's not a lot of us out here, you know, and I felt the emptiness that comes with that. Absolutely. But what I've learned is that there is a cost to shrinking that I am working through the effects of now. And we don't talk about this for whatever reason. It's like the cost of missed opportunities, the ones that require your full authentic self to show up, but you've conditioned yourself to be so small that you don't even know where that comes from, you know? It's the cost of joy, because joy comes from living in alignment, not from living in hiding or not second guessing every move that you make. It's like a bullet wound to your intuition, you know? So what does it look like to lean into authenticity even when it feels risky or unsafe? You know, it's not like a switch and it's just like, I'm fearless now, you know? But it is about taking small intentional steps back to yourself. You know, that could mean you're wearing your natural hair to an important meeting, you know, even if you're unsure of the reaction. This could just mean saying no to something that, like, finally, right, that doesn't align with you, even if you're afraid of disappointing someone, or even if you know that'll shift the rapport with someone, you know, or sharing an idea that you've been holding back because you didn't think that your voice mattered, and maybe because they've told you that it didn't matter, you know. Like, every step is a rebellion against the lie that you have to be anything other than who you are, that you have to fit into this box. It's 2024, about to be 2025, y'all. Like, that's dead. It's done. You know, your authenticity isn't just a gift to yourself. Actually, it's a gift to the spaces that you're in. You are an offering when you show up fully. You know, you are giving permission to others to do the same, to show up as their selves. And the truth is, the people and the opportunities that are meant for you will find you when you're being you, you know, not the version of you that you think the world wants to see, or your boss needs to see, or your husband or your wife or your mom or whoever. You know, and this isn't always easy, obviously. It takes practice. It does take support. Sometimes it takes isolation, you know, and you have to figure out what authenticity looks like for you now, you know. And if this is something that you need help and guidance with, I offer one-on-one coaching to help you guide yourself back to your truth at your pace, though. You know, so if you feel that you need a little bit of that kind of soul guidance, links in bio. But I say all that to say, authenticity isn't about being perfect. It's not about being fearless. It's about being honest, actually, with yourself, with the world. It's about choosing yourself, even when it doesn't feel good, you know, and it's about remembering that the spaces where your authenticity is unwelcome, they're actually just not for you. Like, you can cut them out. That you might have to find a new job. You might need some new friends. You might need all of that, you know? But you actually do not have to fit into a world that doesn't see you fully. That's unfair to you. We're all here to create a world where you don't have to choose between being safe and being real. But that starts with you showing up. It starts with you claiming your position in, you know, the collective, you know, by communicating to your ancestors that you're ready to take on this work. You know what I mean? Fear has a way of shrinking us, of making us believe that staying small will keep us safe. But the truth is, safety doesn't come from hiding. It comes from knowing that even when you're seen, even when you're vulnerable, you are still enough. Every step you take towards visibility is a step towards liberation. Not just for you, but for everyone watching you rise, me included. So I'm gonna leave you with this today. What could your life look like if you stopped allowing fear to drive? What does it look like for you to step fully into who you are? My hope is that this video isn't the end of this conversation, but the beginning. If you're ready to take the next step, whether it's joining my free WhatsApp community or diving deeper into one-on-one coaching, I'm here for you. Together, we're not breaking free from fear, we're building something more powerful in its place. Thanks for watching.